We're still talking standard form, but if you look at these first three problems, they're not in standard form. What form is this?
Oh, it's in that one that we did.
Which one?
It's I had y equals x.
It was mx plus b.
Yeah.
What form is that?
I don't know.
Slope
Intercept.
intercept. Right. Why do you have a notebook with you? Desk with you, darling. Okay. So this is in slope intercept form right now. What is this one?
Is it like y equal?
What's it called?
One of the y.
I don't know.
Point
Point
slope, right? Okay, so we're starting with equations in a different form, and we want to get them to standard form. But here's the key thing about this. This right here, okay, is super important. What is an integer?
Oh, no, I don't know. It isn't like a point.
It's something with the x and y.
Integers are numbers. Because then they have the whole numbers. And
Whole numbers, yep.
integers.
Yes, it is positive and negative whole numbers. Okay, in other words, no fractions. So if you have fractions in your final answer is wrong. Okay, so that's what we need to make sure of, is that we get rid of our fractions. And I'm going to show you a really simple way to get rid of fractions right now. So if my equation is letter A here, y equals negative 3 over 7 times x plus 5, okay? I need to look at how I could get rid of the fraction. Do you know what we could multiply by to get negative 3/7 to not be a fraction anymore?
Divide.
Divide by what?
I mean, 7.
Not negative 3/7, because whatever you do to this, you have to do everywhere, right? So we don't want to turn other things into fractions when we get rid of this fraction.
You couldn't like do negative 3/7 x equals 5 and then times the 7 with the 5 and then divide by 3.
Eventually, yes. So here's what you're going to do. Whatever your denominator is, that's the number that you're going to multiply by. So I'm going to multiply everything in this problem by 7. So multiply the right side by 7 and multiply the left side by 7. Because what's going to happen then, on the left I have 7y. Okay, and now I have to distribute this to both of these. What is 7 times negative 3/7? So think of it like this, 7 over 1 times negative 3 over 7. If we cross cancel, 7 over 7 is 1. What are we left with?
3.
So we're left with a negative 3, right? So what you do here is you take that negative 3, but don't forget about this x. Okay, the 7's canceled each other out, so we have a negative 3x left here, but then you have to distribute that 7 here as well. So 7 times 5 is 35. So I just multiplied everything by 7. Does that make sense?
Why 7 though?
Because it was our denominator. We want to get rid of the fraction, and the way you get rid of a denominator is if you multiply by that number, you're going to get 1, right? If I multiply something over 7 by 7, I get 1 as my 7 over 7, okay? Is this in standard form right now?
Yeah. No.
Not quite. What do we have to do?
Divide? Or
Not divide,
subtract.
not
Times
subtract.
5 in those parentheses.
No. We're here right now, right?
Alright.
What does standard form look like? Ax plus by equals c. So we need our x and our y to be on the same side of our equal sign.
Oh, add.
So we're going to add 3x and add 3x. Can I combine these? 7y plus 3x?
No.
So you're going to write it 3x plus 7y equals 35. And that is your standard form, and that is your answer. Okay? Okay, so now that you know that process, yeah, Melian.
So the first step is divide every number for 7.
Multiply every number by 7. Mm-hmm.
7, okay.
Yeah, so let's look at it on this one.
You second one?
Second one is then once you've done that, you need to get your x and y on the same side of the equation.
And then the other.
And then you're done. Okay, so let's look at this one. This is our setup. What do I need to multiply every term by?
5.
5. So I'm going to multiply this whole side by 5, and I'm going to multiply this side by 5. Okay, so I have right now 5y equals, and now if I multiply 5 times 2/5, guys, you don't even have to think about these. Once you get the process, they always cancel out. 5 over 5 is 1, it will be 2x. Every single time, it will be this number times this, okay? So 5 times 2/5 is 2x, but then don't forget you have to distribute that over here too. What do you get there? Minus 20, okay? Now here's the deal from here. I'm not picky on this. Maybe eventually in math classes they'll get a little more picky because technically when we put something in standard form, we don't want our front term to be a negative, or usually we want more positives than negatives. Technically here, we would say subtract the 5y and move it over here, and add the 20 and move it over here. If you did it a different way, if you subtracted the 2x, you would get minus 2x plus 5y equals negative 20. If you did it the way I said, you would get 2x minus the 5y, and you would have moved the 20 over here. This is fine, and this is fine. I will take either one of those. They look different. They're essentially the same thing. It's like if we divided everything by a -1, we would get the same thing, okay? So I don't care if you do it this way or even if you do it this way, right? That's the same thing. Just know that in future math classes, they might eventually make you start doing it where your x term, this term out in front of x, is not a negative, okay? And if that's not a negative, then it would have to be this one or this one.
So the
Questions
more
on that?
easy way is like change the 5y for the z.
No, because your c is just out in front on this one. This is c equals ax plus by.
It's
It's
like
just
you
written.
changed-
It's just written in a different order.
Say-
It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm gonna do one more of those for you because I just feel like these are tough and I want you to get it. Okay, let's say your equation is y equals 1/6 x minus 2. And I want you to put that in standard form. What are you gonna multiply by?
6.
Good. So you're gonna multiply by 6 here and you're gonna multiply by 6 here. What's that gonna become? 6y. Right, so remember your 6's cancel, you're left with 1x.
Minus
12. Don't forget to distribute that, right? It goes to both of these, so minus 12. And then if we want to turn that into standard form, what would you do?
We're gonna change 6y plus.
I would take away 6y from both sides. So right now you have 0 equals x minus 6y minus 12. And we're going to move the 12 over here, right? We're going to add 12. So 12 equals x minus 6y. Now, if you were doing it on your own and you got negative x plus 6y equals negative 12, that's fine. Okay, it's just the opposite of everything.
Hey, but Mr.
Yes.
Ford, I don't talk about it. I don't talk this about it. Like I say, if you change 6y for negative 12.
You can't do this. No, you can't do negative x minus 12 equals 6y.
In the first problem. It's
Here?
Like 6y. No, the other one.
This one?
Yeah,
You swap them?
yes.
Yeah, but you need to change their sign if you do that, because I'm subtracting
Exactly. So you need to
6y and adding 12.
So you need to say 12 equal 1x
X
minus
minus-
6y.
Yeah, that's what this is.
It's like I can show this is the correct one.
right? Yeah. I just didn't put the 1 out in front. You can put the 1 in, you don't have to put the 1 in. Okay? Okay, this one's easier, in my opinion. Well, I guess not. It's about the same amount of work, but it makes more sense in my head. Okay, so if you have point slope form, looks like this, okay? But we can't have fractions. Now you have a couple options. You could distribute right off the bat. It's definitely not the easier route if you distribute right away, which is the tricky part because you're used to distributing right away on these, okay? Instead, if you start the same way we started with slope-intercept, what would we multiply everything by? By 3. Okay, now here's the deal. Because this is a negative 1/3, I would multiply by -3, otherwise you're gonna have extra work at the end, okay? So if we multiply by a -3 and multiply by a -3, now your problem looks like this. -3 times y minus 2. What's -3 times -1/3?
Three. No, 1.
It's 1, right? So that gets rid of that, and now all you have over here is x plus 6. You don't have to distribute that -3 because you multiplied it by a number out in front, okay? So that gets rid of it. So now this is what we have. We're going to distribute that, so -3y plus 6. Oh, what did I...
Did you -3 times 6? I don't get that. Wait.
I don't get what?
Wait.
Oh, this -3 times 6?
You didn't do that for that?
No, because you're not multiplying -3 times this.
Oh,
You're
okay.
multiplying -3 times the whole side, which when you multiply -3 times -1/3, they cancel. That's 1. So that goes away. You don't have to distribute that.
Okay.
Okay?
Amazing. You forgot the 1. You forgot -3 times -1. People that you're like confused right now.
What?
No, this is just x plus 6 now.
Dale, yo no te. I don't know me. I'm good.
-3 times a -1/3. Look at this. Hey, Melian. -3 times -1/3 is a positive 3 over 3, which is 1. It just goes away,
Go.
right?
Go.
Okay, so to put this into standard form, I'm going to move the 3y over here. Okay, so it's x plus 3y. And then I'm going to move the 6 over here, and 6 minus 6 is 0. So it's going to equal 0 on this one. Okay? We're going to do another one of those. I don't feel like
Oh, wait, I wasn't done cooking.
you followed me there.
Understand.
You understand?
Yeah.
Good.
Nom, nom,
Okay,
nom,
let's do this one. Let's say you have y plus 2 equals -1/2 times x minus 3. Okay?
2 multiply
What are you going to multiply both sides of your equation by?
-2.
-2. So if I multiply by -2 here, and I multiply by -2 here, notice what happens. This is 1, so that's going to go away. This you're going to distribute. So it's going to be -2y minus 4 equals x minus 3. You with me so far? Thank you. Oh, Casey's not here. Is this just trash then?
I'll take it.
Do you want it?
Please. That
Um,
one trash too?
no, she's here.
Oh, she's
Okay, so from here, we would add 2y to both sides. So add 2y. Can you combine x and 2y?
No.
No. So it's just going to be x plus 2y on the right side. And now we're going to get rid of the 3 on the left side. So -4 plus 3 is -1. So that would be your standard form.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
You with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay. last problem. Almost done. And this one's a little bit tricky. So I gave you all the steps very broken down. And then we'll talk about, it's the graphing part that I feel like is the tricky part, okay? Here's what it says. A media download store sells songs for $1 each and movies for $12 each, okay?
Well,
You have $60 to spend. So your total is $60. Write and graph an equation that describes the items you can purchase. What are 3 combinations of numbers of songs and movies that you could buy? So I could buy 2 movies and 6 songs, or I could buy 3 movies and 4 songs. Like what works out, okay? So you're gonna start with defining your variables. What are the 2 things we're talking about?
movies and songs.
Movies and songs. So we're gonna call S songs, and we're gonna call M movies. Okay. Now, we're gonna come up with an equation for this in standard form. AX plus BY equals C. Does anyone see what that equation's gonna be? Remember, we have this, and we have that.
1 x plus. No,
What's your variable?
X.
What?
No, never mind.
Look, the equation is y equal 1x.
One what?
1x.
X?
Yes.
No.
1y.
We set variables, guys. What
I
are your
know.
variables?
I don't know.
Look at the variables we chose.
Oh, okay, yeah. Y equal s and no s1
1S
exactly
plus what?
m12
12M equals what?
60.
60, the total, right? So $1 per song plus $12 per movie equals the total of $60 that you have to spend, okay? How do I find the intercepts of this?
Well, we can like
Isn't it already solved?
multiply by 1.
What we did yesterday. How'd you do it yesterday? If you wanted to find the X and Y intercepts, you did what? Divide what? You had to write what?
Let me see. Let me
You what?
find my drops.
Not divide by 60. You gotta set 2 equations. What are your 2 equations? There you go. So here it is. Your 2 equations are S equals 60. You can put a 1 there. You don't need to. And 12M equals 60, right? We set up the 2 equations as if the 1 is 0, okay? So this one's done for you. That's your S intercept. This one you need to divide, and you get M equals 5, okay? So now it says to graph it, and here's where it gets a little bit tricky. We need to set this up so that it makes sense with the numbers we have and that our things are gonna hit on the graph. Where this is a little confusing, okay, if we look at, we're gonna treat this like our X and this like our Y. So this is gonna be our songs. This is gonna be our movies. Okay, if you count by something, that's gonna help you get to your intercepts here and make sense with the numbers that we had to start with, your life is much easier. So if you think about this, it's $12 per movie. So the max number of movies we can buy is 5, right? So our M only needs to go up to 5. So what should we count by?
1, 2,
By ones.
3, 4,
So we're gonna
5.
go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Our songs cost $1, and we have $60 to spend. So if we spent all of our money on songs, we need to count up to what number?
10.
60, okay? We could get up to 60 songs. If we do 60 songs and no movies, that's fine. So we need to get up to 60 over here. So we gotta figure out what's a good number to count by.
10.
I would not count by tens just because we're changing by 12
Okay, vamos a darle con
on the
seis.
1. Okay, so I'm going to count by sixes because 6, 12, 18, 24 is going to hit those 12 markers, but kind of space out our graph a little more. So we're going to go 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Am I even going to make this? I think I do. 42, 48. Ooh. Let's zoom in a little more.
Yeah, look, it's so much, huh?
54 and 60. We just make it. Sorry for the ugly numbers. Okay, so now it says we found intercept. So our S-intercept is really our X-intercept. That would be here, right, at 60. Where are we going to put this 5?
Go up 5.
On the Y-intercept, up 5. So that's going to go here. Okay. Now here's the beautiful thing. If you graphed this properly, it should do the work for you if you use a straight edge. So if you take a straight edge and you draw this line in, look at what happens. If my ruler wants to work anyway. Okay, my ruler wasn't laid out perfectly, but all of these hit your graph perfectly. Do you see that? That tells you what all of your answers could be. So it says name the points that fall perfectly on the graph. So we have this first point is 0, 5. Second point is 12, 4. Third point is 24, 3. The fourth point is 36, 2. The next point is 48, 1. And the last point is 60, 0. Okay, so those are all the points that hit perfectly on our graph. Do you know what those mean? Remember, this is S and this is M. So we could buy 0 songs and 5 movies. That'd be one combination. Or we could buy 24 songs and 3 movies with $60. Or we could buy 48 songs and 1 movie with $60. So these are all combinations of things you could purchase with your $60. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need to, Gabby, we need to, like, when we have a quiz about that,